Alright, today we're going to be converting fractions, decimals, and percents. So we're going to be on page 49 and 50, big 4. We're converting fractions, decimals, and percents. Okay, there are 2 pages that you need. The first page looks like this. What you're going to do with this page is you're going to lay it down flat. Then you're going to take the outside and fold it in to the center line. Just like this. Make a crease. Okay, it should line up with this line right here. So we've just folded that side in. We're going to do the same thing to the other side. So take this side, fold it into the middle. Crease it down. And there we go. You should be able to open it up. But we want it like this. So this is the page that goes on page 49. So we're going to put that aside, go to page 49. Okay, so we want to turn this and put glue on the back of it. Dot, dot, not a lot, because we're going to be writing on it. Press it down. This is page 49. Let's see, I've put 49 down here at the bottom. At the top, our title is Converting Fractions, Decimals, and percents. Okay, while we're here, take your scissors and you're going to cut on the dotted lines. Okay, so if you open it back up, I'm going to turn mine sideways. I'm going to cut to the dotted line until I get to the crease. So cut and cut. Turn it over. Do the same thing, cut and cut. So now you should have 6 little windows. Then on the back, turn it over on page 50. Write 50 down here at the bottom. These are your most common fraction, decimals, and percents. So we're going to glue this down. And fill that in just a little bit. right, so starting out, we are looking at a conversion. We are converting percents to fractions. So on this top left, we're going to write percents to fraction. Okay, so when I'm converting a percent to a fraction, the steps are rewrite the percent over 100, then simplify. Okay, so our percent is 42. So rewrite the percent, 42, over 100. Then we need to simplify. Well, 42 and 100 are both even, so I know they're both divisible by 2. 42 divided by 2 is 21. 100 divided by 2 is 50. These cannot be simplified anymore. So 42% is 21/50ths as a fraction. Okay. Next, we're going to do percent to decimal. So we're going to the right, percent to decimal. Open that one up. It says, step 1, remove the percent sign. Step 2, move the decimal 2 places to the left. Okay, so the first thing we do is remove the decimal sign. The percent sign. And that gives us 42. 42 is a whole number, so that means that our decimal is right here. Okay, we're moving the decimal 2 places to the left. So we're going once, twice to the left. So 42% is actually 42 hundredths as a decimal. Okay, move on to the next one. Let's see. Next, we are converting fractions to a decimal. My pen is starting to run out. So fraction to decimal. Let me see if I can write that a little better. There we go. To convert a fraction to the decimal, you divide the numerator by the denominator. And I want you to write this out. We've talked about this before. The numerator goes inside the box. The denominator goes on the outside. Remember, it's like day and night. At night we go inside our house. During the day we play outside of our house. So, we put 1 inside of our box and 8 on the outside of our box. Now 8 cannot go into 1, so I'm going to add a decimal and a 0. Take my decimal straight up. 8 can go into 10 once. 1 times 8 is 8. 10 minus 8 is 2. We cannot have a remainder, so we're going to add a 0, bring it down. 8 goes into 20 twice. 2 times 8 is 16. Subtract, that gives us 4. We still can't have a remainder. Add a 0, bring it down. 8 goes into 40 5 times. 5 times 8 is 40. Subtract, and that gives us 0. So 1/8 as a decimal is 0 and 125 thousandths. Okay, next we're going to convert a fraction to a percent. Fraction to percent. Okay. Step 1 says to convert the fraction to a decimal. So we have to do the same thing that we just did over here. We have to divide the numerator by the denominator. Now we've already done step 1, so we're going to borrow from over here. Make it 0.125. Step 2 says move the decimal 2 places to the right. Once, twice. Then add the percent sign. So that would be 12.5 or 12.5%. Okay, on to the bottom 2. Now we're going to convert a decimal my pen's running out again. Gotta find another pen. Decimal to percent. Open that up. Our decimal is 0 and 75 hundredths. Move the decimal 2 places to the right, then add the percent sign. So we've got 0.75. Go once, twice to the right. That would make that 75. And put the percent sign behind it. So that would be 75%. And last one is converting decimal to fraction. All my pens seem to be running out, but that's okay. Decimal to fraction. Step 1 says to write the decimal over its place value. This is very important that you know your place values of your decimals. Remember, it starts out tenths, hundredths, thousandths, then 10 thousandths, 100 thousandths, millionths, and keeps on going over and over. So if we pretend like this decimal is a 1. Then you put a 0 for every number behind the decimal. So 7 gets a 0, 5 gets a 0. What that means is we would put 75 over 100, because this is really 75 hundredths. Then step 2 says to simplify. So we can divide 75 and 100 are both divisible by 25. $75 divided by 25 is 3. 100 divided by 25 is 4. So 75 hundredths is 3/4 as a fraction. So this is a very, very good reference sheet of how to convert between fractions, decimals, and percents here on page 49. And then on page 50, we're going to quickly go over some of the most commonly used fractions, decimals, and percentages. So the first one is 1 as a fraction. That's 1 over 1, which simplifies to 1. As a decimal, it's 1.0, or again, you could just put 1. As a percent, we would move the decimal twice to the right, once, twice, so it is 100%. So if you have, going back to our fraction, 1 out of 1, you have 100% of that thing. The next one is 1/10. So we put that as a fraction, 1/10. As a percent, it is 10%. 1% would be 1 out of 100. As a decimal, it would be 1/100th, so 0.01. 1/4, if we divide 1 out of 4, is 25 hundredths. As a percent, it is 25%. 1/2, we should all know, is 0.5, and 50%. 75 hundredths we just did on the other page. It is 3/4, and 75%. 20% is 20 out of 100, which simplifies to 1/5. As a fraction, it is 0 2/10. 4/10 would be 4 out of 10, which simplifies to 2/5. If we move our decimal once, twice, that would be 40%. If you see our pattern going here, we had 1/5, 2/5, 3/5. So 3/5, we had 0.2, 0.4, this is 0.6. And that is 60%. 80% would be 4/5. As a decimal, 0.8. 1/3 and 2/3 are very important. They are never-ending decimals. They are repeating decimals. So to show 1/3 as a decimal would be 0.3 repeating. And we show that it's repeating by putting that line over our 3. So what happens as a percent it becomes 33.3 repeating percent. 2/3 is the same, except it's 6 repeating. So 0.6 repeating and 66.6 repeating percent. Okay, we had 12.5%. We did this on the other side. So as a decimal, it was 0.125. As a fraction, it is 1/8. .375 is 3/8. As a percent, it is 37.5%. 5/8 is 0.625, and that's 62.5%. 87.5% is 0.875. As a fraction, it is 7/8. 1 25/100 is 125%. As a fraction, it is 1 1/4. 1 1/2 is 1.5. As a percent, it is 150%. 175% is 1.75. As a fraction, it is 1 3/4. And that wraps it up.